Hi guys, and thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. Now, today's an exciting day for me because I'm releasing 4 videos. In each of the 4 videos, I'm going to use Embrilliance software to design this type of cute and trendy knockout design. So why 4 different videos? In part 1, I'm going to show you how you can make this using Stitch Artist Level 1. In part 2, I'm going to show you how you can use Stitch Artist Level 2 as well as Silhouette Studio Business Edition to make this. In Level 3, and I think Level 3 is the most efficient way to make it, but not everybody has Stitch Artist Level 3. That's what part 3 is about. And then in part 4, I go back to Stitch Artist Level 1, but if you also have Enthusiast, there's a feature in there that makes this with Stitch Artist Level 1 much easier. So in the video that you're watching right now, I'm going to use Stitch Artist Level 2 and Silhouette Studio Business Edition. So here I am in Embrilliance software, and in this part 2 of my Knockout series videos, I'm going to show you how you can use Stitch Artist Level 2 and an outside program, Silhouette Studio, to make a cute and trendy knockout embroidery design. And the reason this takes Stitch Artist Level 2 versus Level 1 is because I'm going to be bringing in an SVG that I'm making in another program. So let's get started. First, I'm going to go right here to Create. We'll click on that. And then I'm going to go over here to where you can add TrueType art. This just means that you can bring in fonts that are on your system, on your computer system. So let's click that. And then we are going to type a capital H. And I'll say OK. Now I want this to be about 6 inches tall. It's going to be a little bit larger than 6 inches tall once we add the final stitches. But to resize this precisely, I can go right here. And then in the height, I can change this to 6 inches. Because the proportions are locked, when I hit the Enter key, the width will change as well. Now I want to type the word Hope using a BX font. And if I weren't using a BX font in this design, I would have simply started my entire design in Silhouette Studio. But since I am, this is the process I use. We're going to go right here, click on the A, and then I'm going to be consistent with my other parts of this series and use this Bajas font. Let's click on it, and then in all caps, I'm going to type the word Hope. All right, so I want to rotate this so that the H is down here and the E is up here. To do that, I'm going to go right here and click on this left arrow. All right, let's move this over. Now, to move this over, let me highlight it again. You cannot grab any of those green squares because that's just going to move that letter like that. So let's undo that. Let's click on it and we'll move the whole thing over and we're going to resize it. Now I don't really have a certain size that I want. I want to put it at a size that looks good inside the H. So I'm just going to take my cursor and drag it from a corner. And then let's go ahead and move it up a little bit. Now the amount of knockout that you get depends on where you put the word Hope. So if you want more knocked out of the H, you're going to put Hope more like that. If you want less knocked out, you could put it all the way up here. So this part is just all personal preference. I think I want mine just about like that. Now, if you want to move any of these letters around, this is the time to do that because we're getting ready to take this into Silhouette Studio so that we can allow Silhouette Studio to do the knockout for us. That way we don't have to draw with points like we have to if we're just using Stitch Artist Level 1. Now I do want to go ahead and put a run stitch on this, otherwise it won't show up in Silhouette Studio. And you wouldn't have to have this H show up because I know the exact size that I want, I know the exact font that I want, but let me show you if you want to take the H over also, how you would do that. So you would have to put at least a run stitch on this. And I wouldn't do anything else in a run stitch because this is the least complicated stitch there is, and that's going to go into Silhouette Studio pretty easily. Okay, I have decided I want to move this down. So I'm just using my arrow keys to do that. Actually, move it to the right, not really down. At this point, I can go ahead and save this. So I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to go ahead and do a stitch and working file. That's just what I always do. So I'll say Save As, and I'm going to save it as Embroidery Hope SA2. So that lets me know I did this using Stitch Artist Level 2. And I'm only naming it that for purposes of the video so I can keep them all straight. All right, let's say Save. Now, if your machine uses something other than a DST file, there is a potential that it's not going to go into Silhouette Studio correctly. So let's say you use a PES file. If that doesn't go into Silhouette Studio, you can always just use this same design. You can save it as a DST file also, and the purpose of that would be only to take it into Silhouette Studio. So, speaking of Silhouette Studio, let's go ahead and open that up. Now, this is the Business Edition. The Business Edition is the only one of the Silhouette Studio softwares that allow you to save your designs as SVGs. That's important for this design. Now, Silhouette Studio Business Edition, that is only a one-time fee. The regular price for that on Swing Design is $99.99. Currently, it's on sale for $39.99. If you're interested, I'll put a link to that in the video description below. But I love not having a subscription-based software where I have to pay each and every month. This is a one-time fee. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if I wasn't using a BX font for my word hope, and if I was hand digitizing the word hope instead, I would have simply started in Silhouette and created the letter H, the word hope, and the knockout design all here. But since I am using a BX font, I needed to start and make my basic design in Embrilliance first. So I am going to click on Design, and then that brings up the size of canvas that I'm defaulted to. If you need to change that, you can click right here, but I'm going to go ahead and keep mine at 10 by 10. Now to bring in that design, we are going to go to File, Merge. It's right here. Notice you can't bring in the BE file, but a DST file you can. So let's select it, and I'll say OK. And you can see it right here. It comes in quickly for me. Now, when I start to do an offset, I might have some big delays because it's working with an embroidery file. But I don't mind those delays. Let me go ahead and select all of this, and I'm going to use the keys on my keyboard to drag it over a little bit and drag it down a little bit. Now, this is the H, and it is hard to see. But what I like to do is I like to go over here. Let's click on the text tool, and then I'm going to go right up here, and I'm going to go select the same font we used before, and that's University. And then right here, I'm going to type an H. Now remember, I put this at 6 inches, but there is extra space here and up here that this is measuring in the 0.95 inches. So before you resize it with it selected, go up to Object and go down to Ungroup. And when I click on Ungroup, watch what happens. Now I have the precise size, and now I can go resize it right here. So we are going to resize that to 6 inches tall, and because the proportions are locked, the width will change as well. And then this one, I can turn it black. It's going to make it easier to see. Now, just to do a reality check, let's put it over here. Let's make sure that it's fitting on that green line, and that looks good. So the next thing that I want to do is select Hope. Let's go up and bring that to the front. You go up to Object, Arrange, and bring to front. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to put an offset on that. When you are making an offset on an embroidery file, it can take a very long time, and it doesn't always give you the option to select your offset size until after it's taken a long time to do the offset. So here's what I would do. I go over here, select a square, a rectangle, a circle, whatever you want. Go ahead and put that on the screen, and then go to the offset tool. If yours doesn't look like this, you're looking for this star with the outline around it. If you can't find it in your icons, go up to Panels and then go down to Offset. And this is what comes up either way. All right, let's move that out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. So with this simple square, I can do an offset really quickly, whereas I might not be able to of this. So I want to click on Offset. It defaults to whatever I used last time. And so then I can change that. And I'm just going to change it to 0.150. Also, if I want to have squared off corners, I could click here, but I'm going to keep it at the rounded off corners and I'll say apply. Okay, we can just delete that. Whoops, let me get rid of that. We can delete that. Again, the only reason I did that was to get my offset size to where I wanted it. All right, let's click on Hope. Let's say we want an offset. And then it looks like it's not doing anything. You come over here and you have that spinning wheel. Oh, that was fast. Do not plan for this to go really quickly. Oftentimes, you're going to have a lot of spinning going on. In this case, it went super fast and I didn't really need to preset that offset, but that's okay. Now I'll change the fill color of the offset so I can tell more what it would look like. And I think that looks pretty good. So now I can take Hope and I can just drag it out of the way. So now I'm going to select the H, hold my Shift button down and add Hope to it. And then for now I'm going to group those and move them out of the way so that I can delete this H. Okay, so let's go ahead and ungroup those now. They are both selected. We'll say Object, Modify, and Subtract. Now I don't need this, and I'm not sure if I would like this. I'll see when I get it into Embrilliance. We can always play with points there. And I know that I am not going to like this right here. So let's select it. Let's go over here to the points or the nodes. We'll select it. And I'm going to hold the Shift key down so I can select multiple of these nodes or points. All right, let go of the Shift and hit Delete. Now I feel like there's two right there. Let's go here again. Let's go ahead and zoom in some more. I'm hitting Command and plus on my Mac keyboard. Let's get rid of this one. And I still feel like there's two right there. Let me select this and delete it. Okay, there was. At this point, I'm ready to save this so that I can take it back into Embrilliance. Because I know I have it the way I like it, I'll go ahead and delete Hope. I was just keeping it in case I wanted to make changes. So I'm going to say File, Save As. Let's just save this as H, and I want to save it as an SVG file. So I'll say OK. All right, back to Embrilliance. I can see right here I can bring up a vector file. If you don't see vector here and you have Stitch Artist Level 2, just click this until it shows up and then click on vector. Let's go down and find H. Here it is. We're going to select it and say Open. Okay, you can't really see that it's there because it went right on top of that run stitch. This run stitch, though, it's not going to work because it goes right through Hope. We just did the run stitch so that we could figure out how big we wanted Hope, where we wanted Hope, that type of thing. So let me select the run stitch and delete it. Now, if you watched part 1 where I did this in Stitch Artist Level 1, this entire shape around the word Hope had to be drawn with points. The beauty of doing it this way is you don't have to do that. We're going to select the H. We are going to go up to Run. This is going to be our position replacement stitch. I'm fine with a single stitch, but for that, I just do 3 millimeters. You don't need any tight stitches just to know where to place your fabric. The next thing that we'll do is we're going to add a tack down stitch or a material stitch. So let's go ahead and select the run stitch. And then let's copy it and paste it. I did that with Command C for copy, Command V for paste. You can also use these, or you can go up to edit and say copy, then edit and paste. but for me the shortcut's just easy. All right, so on this run stitch, well, let me click off and back on it. For this run stitch, I want 2.5 millimeters. And then for my tack down stitch, I just leave this as single. If you're tacking down or you're sewing down something like HTV or sequins or something like that, you can always change this to be a double stitch or even a bean stitch. But for me, I'm just going to use a single stitch. With this second run stitch still selected, we're going to do Command C for copy, Command V for paste. Again, that's on a Mac. It might be different on your PC. And then we're going to change this to that satin border stitch. So let's go down here and select it. Let me click off of it, click back on it. And then the satin border stitch is right here. So we'll click on it. Now let me make this larger so I can see if I can fit a 4 millimeter satin stitch in there. I could have made my offset larger, but hopefully this will be fine. And that looks perfectly fine. Now we had a couple of areas I wasn't sure about. And one of those areas was right here, and I can see that needs a little bit of adjusting. The other area is right here. Now because it needs adjusted, and I'm going to adjust it in the satin border layer, I am going to have to go back and either adjust the prior run stitches so they're stitching in the right place, or I can just do copy and paste again. But for now, let's fix this satin border stitch. Now the way I think I want to fix this, instead of just moving these apart and they'd get closer to that, I think I just want to get rid of these 4 points. So what I'm going to do is select this point, hold the Control key down, add this one to it. Let's add this one and this one. And now I'm just going to delete those 4. So I can either leave it straight like that. Let's see what that looks like. I think I actually like that. If I wanted to though, let's go ahead and select it again. I could move this point over. Let's get it kind of straight. Because I can move each side independently, I can tell that's a cusp. And then let's move it up like this. Let's see what that looks like. And if you're not sure what I mean by a cusp, you just haven't really worked with points much, I have a video that I released recently all about drawing with points in Embrilliance. You can also edit points using that video as well. So I'll leave that in the video description as well, just in case you want to increase your knowledge about drawing with points or editing points in Embrilliance. Now I think I liked it when it was just straight across. So I'm going to hit Command Z for undo. Another way you could do it is click Edit and Undo. All right, this is our run stitch, or our 2 run stitches. So we're going to fix that here in just a minute. But let's go up and make the adjustment to this node as well. Because this end down here is pretty well a right angle, pretty straight going to that, I want to make this end about the same. You wouldn't have to, that's just what I want to do. So I'm going to select this point, and I'm just hitting the up arrow on my keyboard to get that to straighten up a little bit. Now I'm just going to grab it with my cursor, and I think that looks good. Now since I edited the satin border stitch, these run stitches are no longer correct, so I'm going to go ahead and delete them. And at this point, I could either copy and paste this and then reorder them. For me, it's just easier to go ahead and turn this back into a run stitch. This is my position stitch, and so I'm putting that up to 3 millimeters. Then I'm going to hit Command C for copy, Command V for paste. I'm going to change this run stitch to 2.5. And then I'm going to select again, hit copy, paste. All right, let's change this to the satin border stitch. It's still at 4 millimeters, that's good. Then I want to go right here and I want to make sure that I tie in and tie off just to make sure those stitches stay secure. And then the last thing before I save this is I'm going to change the color of this stitch right here so that my machine knows to stop. You could always put a color stop in your machine, but to me, it's just easier to change this to a different color. It doesn't matter what color that is, but since it's a different color, my machine's going to stop. And this is what our final design looks like. Now, if you want more space between the word hope and the H, you could either take this and grab it, move it up a little bit. That's one way. Or when you're in silhouette, just make a larger offset. Lastly, I'm going to save it. So I'll go to File, Save As, Stitch and Working. I'm going to keep it at Embroidery Hope SA2, so I know I did this with Stitch Artist Level 2 just for my own benefit. And I'll say Save. Let's replace that. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until my next video, bye-bye.